everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this card using the October stamp of the month called With All My Love. You can get this stamp for $5 with any $50 purchase, or if you're a VIP, you can get it for free with a $50 purchase. So let's get started. I'm going to use some of the new black ore paper, and this stuff is so cool in person. It's got some shimmer to it and it's nice and thick. And then I'm also going to use some of the Majestic holographic paper and a piece of the lovely pattern paper, the heart pattern from that pack. So I'm going to get started, and I'm cutting a piece of the ore paper just large enough for my image that I'm going to stamp, and I have it loaded into my MISTI already. And I'm going to white emboss this image. So I'm using some anti-static powder on the ore paper first, and then I'm going to ink up my images using Versamark ink, and I'll get that down. I'm using my MISTI because this is a large stamp, and it's just easier to manage the larger stamps using this stamping tool. Okay, so now I have my image stamped, and I'm going to sprinkle some of this white embossing powder on it and then just tap it off. So you just sprinkle your powder all around and then tap it off, and then you can see where you may have missed some areas and just add some more until you have the entire image covered. And if you find any stray bits, you can knock them off using a dry paintbrush. So I'm going to get this ready, and then I'll speed it up really quickly. I'm going to heat it up with my heat tool. Okay. So I'm going to bring my heat tool in, and now I'm going to go super fast, and you can watch this embossing powder melt and change. It's so cool. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my microfiber cloth, and I'm going to buff the image and remove that anti-static powder from the cardstock. Okay, so now I'm ready to start coloring, and I'm going to use these new metallic markers. They're from Spectrum Noir. One end has a fine tip and the other end has like a paintbrush tip. And I'm just coloring in all of these little cells that were left from my stamping. And these markers, they are opaque and they will color over the embossed image. I think they'll cover just about anything. So you do have to be mindful of the lines and very careful when you color, because it will go over onto the white if you're not too careful. And so it does take a little time to get this image colored in. I've got it sped up pretty quickly. I'll show you the coloring of one flower, and then I'll skip ahead to when I'm all done. I did the rest of it off camera. But these markers are so cool. They show up on black and they're metallic and just a really cool finish on black, especially, and on this ore paper. They just really, I just love the effect. Okay, so now we're ready to start building our card. And I'm going to cut this heart paper at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm going to do an A2 side fold card. And now I'm going to cut down my image. I've got the Majestic holographic paper cut at 4 by 4. So I'm going to cut my image at 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 square. So I'm just trimming off around the edges until I have it at that size. And my image is pretty much centered. I kind of eyeballed it. And then I'm going to bring in my guillotine, my little mini guillotine trimmer, to trim my sentiment. I didn't line it up in my MISTI straight, so I needed to make sure that when I trimmed it, it was trimmed straight. So it's just easier to manage with when you're working with these small strips, when you use this little guillotine as opposed to the other trimmer. And again, I'm not really measuring, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. And you'll see in a second, I'll check, and it's close enough. I have about 3/4 of an inch on either side of that sentiment. And then I'm going to flag this out, or dovetail the ends. And the easiest way to do this is to just trim in the center and then take each corner to meet your center snipped piece. And then you'll get your little flagged ends. Okay, so now we're ready to start building the card. And I was looking at this and thinking it needed a little something more to finish off those edges. So I'm going to add another piece of just regular black cardstock around the edges, and it's just going to be a teensy tiny smidge of paper showing, but it just kind of finished off the card. So I'm cutting this at 4 1/4 by 5.5, and then I'm going to trim down that heart paper. I'm just going to take off about 1/16 of an inch, so that there's just a tiny, tiny border around it. Okay, so now we're ready to start building the card. So I'm just going to use Tombow tape and get this assembled. So I'll put the piece of black cardstock down first, and then the heart pattern paper goes down on top. And then I'm going to pop the heart panel and my sentiment. And I decided to use the leftover foam tape from the centers of shaker cards. You get extra foam tape. So I'm using that, and I'm going to pop that on my holographic paper. And then I'll attach that whole panel using Tombow. So that's going to be in the upper part of the card. And then I'll take that little banner and I'm going to pop that as well with foam tape. I'm going to keep this pretty simple as far as embellishing goes. But the last step, of course, I have to add a little bit of bling. So I'm going to add some of these bitty sparkles to the image. And I just scattered a whole bunch of them around. They just give a nice subtle sparkly effect. And that's my card. I'll have some close-ups in a sec. So all of these supplies are currently available in my online store. The URL is in the upper right corner of your screen, and I'll make a list of supplies along with links in the description below. I appreciate you watching my video today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.